Hello, I want to thank each and every one of you so much for joining me tonight for what will be the greatest interview thus far in my live streaming career. Listen, I don't have to tell you that nerves are all over the place. However, I believe that my guest tonight, he's going to come with a fire and do a whole lot of things to make all of that just go away. I'd like to take the opportunity again to thank each and every one of you for joining me tonight. Surely it's an honor for me and my guests to be able to come into your space. If you all would give me just a moment, I would like to introduce you all to this great Army soldier, Lieutenant General Leslie C. Smith. He is the 66th Inspector General of the United States Army. He works at the Army Pentagon in Washington, D.C. He serves under the office of the Secretary of the Army, and he received his commission from Georgia Southern University in 1983 as a field artillery officer. In 1985, he graduated from Georgia Southern University with a bachelor's degree in accounting and, listen to this, as a I'm doing this for a reason because he is quite a humble man, but he is distinguished. He was a distinguished military graduate and branched as a chemical officer. He's had previous assignments all over the place, but one of the things I like to do is I like to highlight quite a few of them in his very extensive resume. His previous assignments was Deputy, the Inspector General, Office of the Secretary of the Army. His earlier assignments included the 1st and the 230th Field Artillery Battalion of the 48th Infantry Brigade. Additionally, he served as a chemical branch assignments officer. He served in PERSCOM, S3, and as the executive officer in the 23rd Chemical Battalion. He also deployed in support of Operations Enduring Freedom, Iraqi Freedom, and New Dawn. Following command, he served on the Army Staff G8 as the Deputy Division Chief and Chief NBC branch for the Full Dimensional Protection Division. In 2005, he assumed command of the 3rd Chemical Brigade at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. I remember him from then, and he was an outstanding commandant of the United States Army Chem School. So let me give you a little bit of his military education. It includes the Chemical Officer Basic and Advanced courses, Airborne School, Jump Master School, Command and General Staff College, and National War College. His awards and decorations, my friends, includes the Distinguished Service Medal, Legion of Merit with Oak Leaf Cluster, Bronze Star Medal with Oak Leaf Cluster, Defense Meritorious Service Medal, Meritorious Service Medal with 3 Oak Leaf Clusters, Army Commendation Medal with Oak Leaf Cluster, Joint Service Achievement Medal, Senior Parachutist Badge, and both the Joint and Army Staff Identification Badges. He holds a Master of Science degree in Administration from Central Michigan University and a Master of Arts degree in National Security Strategy from the National Defense University. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, please invite someone, bring them along on this broadcast because we're about to go for a wonderful ride as we talk about leadership, diversity, and inclusion. Talk a little bit about women in uniform, women in the military, particularly women in the Army, and we're going to talk about mentorships. Invite someone tonight. Listen, I'm going to the next scene because I need to bring this outstanding leader, Lieutenant General Leslie C. Smith, on board with me. Thank you. Hello there, sir. How are you tonight?
Hello, Felicia, and hello to all your verified teammates on the net tonight.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. I want to thank you so much in advance for joining me tonight. I've watched you in leadership before when you were the commandant in Fort Leonard Wood, at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. And I remember and recall that the troops really enjoy seeing you and having you come around. And so I want to talk tonight with you about leadership, diversity, and inclusion, and then just, some things about the Army message. So without further ado, I want to ask right out the bat if there's anything you'd like to say before we get started with our questions.
I'm honored to be here tonight. Hopefully I get a chance to ask some questions about Felicia Alston. So I know she talks about herself, but she's very humble and she's a leader, not only for our Army, but our nation. So we're proud of what she's doing with this network, because I think we need to take the time to talk to each other about a series of topics. So I'm ready to go.
You're ready to go? Outstanding. Let's get right out of the gate, sir, with diversity and inclusion. I'd like to ask you, as the Inspector General from your foxhole, as we say in the military, how do you believe that the Army is incorporating diversity and inclusion into the ranks of higher echelon leadership?
Yes, that's a good question. So we developed a diversity and inclusion annex as part of our people strategy, but the documents themselves are only part of the discussion. I think every leader has a responsibility to be engaged when it comes to diversity. And I would say once you have diversity, you definitely have to have inclusion before you get to equity. Because without that, people can be equitably treated, but if you don't include them in the discussions, they won't get to where they need to go. So part of the reason why many of us leaders continue to serve, and you and I have talked about this before, is that we want to set an example for others that are coming behind us, just like leaders did for us.
Absolutely, sir. And so I see that you've taken diversity and inclusion, and you actually put a third piece to that. And what was that third piece again? I really would like to.
That was equity. That was equity. I think it's important that equity. Yeah. So diversity is important. Inclusion is important, but you got to be equitable about the things you look at. All things being equal, making sure that you have the right people on the team. Not just diversity of color, but diversity of thought, diversity of experience, diversity of background, because that's what makes our military, but also our organizations better.
Thank you for that, sir. I want to ask if you know Lieutenant General Laura Richardson. She's been really highlighted in the news lately. She serves in the Army, for those of you that don't know her, and she's been nominated to Commander of the United States Southern Command. I really wanted to highlight that, sir, particularly on the heels of March, which is Women's History Month. And, I might add, she's only the second woman that's been nominated, General Ann Dunwoody being the first one. So do you know General Richardson, sir?
I know them both very well. So General Dunwoody General Richardson was in the same Commanding General Staff College as us.
Oh, wow.
If you get a chance to look at and Google the class of 97, 96, 97 at Commanding General Staff College, I think we generated between 35 and 40 general officers, and she'll be, I think there's about 4 or 5 4-stars. So she'll be one of those 4-stars. She may be more than that now. So we're proud of what she's done. And proud of what she's going to do. So, and I know General Dunwoody also. She was one of my mentors in the 82nd. And I'm sure your husband, Pat Austin, remembers too, because we all looked up to her. She was the first
outstanding leader.
Yes. And I talked to her about 2 weeks ago, talking about how great of a leader she was then and is now today.
Now, this is definitely not in my notes, but it brings to mind General Gervais.
Yes.
How proud are we of General Gervais? Outstanding.
Yes. And so the key aspect of that is that every leader has to take the time to invest in the people that work with you and for you. So if you remember in the 3rd Chemical Brigade, she was one of my battalion commanders.
Yes, sir.
I'm not taking credit for it, but I'm saying.
I wanted to bring that up. I almost let that slip. But when we talk about women, what would you say is the Army's current diversity at first to overcome gender bias in our military?
I
Things in
think
the work or upcoming that you would like to share with our audience?
I think it's a lot of things that we're doing. We have Your Voice Matters sessions, listening sessions that we're doing across the Army. But I think everyone needs to understand that we all have biases, and you really got to focus on making sure that you take the time to have the right people around you. Me and two of my other 3-star friends who happen to be African American, we were talking in the hall the other day and said, "Hey, do you guys realize that we all have female aides?" And we didn't think about it, but we all do. But we understand the significance of what that means and why that's got to be important, because not because they're female aides, but it's because they're good officers who happen to be female.
Thank you for that, sir.
And so now it is time for me to take the time to show them, just like people showed us, what those options and opportunities were. I could tell you a story. I had my first female aide almost 10 years ago now. I thought I was going to be in trouble for doing that because I had to brief everybody about what I was going to do and is it okay, how we're going to do this. But we got to get beyond that point. We got to get to the point where it is natural for us to select someone who looks like us or not look like us, but gives us different viewpoints. And because I think it's important to give a different viewpoint of the things that we're doing.
Sir, I definitely can appreciate how you think in that manner as it relates to gender bias, diversity, inclusion. But we have to give everyone an opportunity if they are qualified.
That's correct.
And their sex or gender should not drive that decision, or even the color of their skin. That should not drive that decision-making process. And so as we move a little bit forward, I know without a shadow of a doubt, sir, that the Army's message, see, you're already brightening up the screen. I know without a shadow of a doubt that the Army's message is very, very important to you. So if you could tell another Army leader on how to get after this, how would you suggest they carry the Army's message into schools and universities, communities and colleges for the next generation of soldiers?
Well, I think the key thing is to tell your story, and be upfront with it, and tell why service to the nation is the first choice and not a last choice. Because frankly, I think sometimes people think if you can't do anything else, you should join the Army or the Navy. You know, I don't agree with that. I think it's what you're called to do, and you don't have to be called to do it for 35 years like me. You can be called to do it for 3 or 4 or 2. But I think all those things are important. But we have to go to the communities where we're underserved, underrepresented in the military, and places where we don't necessarily have military bases, whether it's Air Force, Navy, Army, Coast Guard. So we can have and talk about what our options and opportunities. So you and I know what the things that the military has done for us. And I think every young person should have an opportunity, at least to have the discussion.
So in other words, you would say that serving in our armed forces is it's a call.
That's
it's
correct.
Not a last choice option or anything like that, but it's a call. It's a duty to serve, and individuals should be very honored to do so.
Right. So when we raise our right hands and say that we're going to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, both foreign and domestic, military and civilian people who serve take that oath. And it's about doing what is right, legally, morally, and ethically, to move the nation forward so we can have this conversation.
Absolutely.
At 7:00 at night, Eastern Standard Time, because there are some places, and we have been those places, where we cannot have these open conversations about things.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. You are the 66th Chief Executive Officer of the Army Inspector General Agency. Sir, I remember when I was in uniform, whenever the troops said IG was coming, it was always a ruffling about, or, it's like, why is the IG here, and different things like that. But it doesn't always have to be a bad thing when the IG shows up. However, I want to say that with your responsibility, you have the administration of inspections for organizations, assistance, and investigations in support of over 1.2 million soldiers and civilians. Sir, how tough has this rendering of duty intensified in the current climate of American society and in the climate of our Army?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. The key thing is that the Army and then the military in general prepares you for a job that you don't know that you're going to do, right? So we kind of talked
Yes.
about the different jobs, being the CG of Fort Leonard Woodby and the Deputy the Inspector General, and
Yes,
now the
sir.
Inspector General. So now when I see things, I'm not surprised about them, and I don't get excited about, oh, the sky is falling, because you're dealing with people. But I'm a prevention strategy guy. So our motto is right then forward. But for me, is how can I help leaders get to the left of an issue before it happens? What we call that is foresight. So if I take everything that we've learned in the past, how can I help educate leaders from the 4-star level down to say what things we need to do? And yes, it's tough. And yes, it's the phones that we have are a lot of times people, that's the only place they get their news. So we have to help educate and communicate to leaders, both military and civilian, about what are those options and opportunities. We call that really teaching and training about what we learn from. Because I don't want a leader to make the same mistake I made.
Oh, absolutely, sir. Teaching and training, we open up our discussion talking about diversity and inclusion, and doing that piece in a way so that it's equitable to everyone that is concerned. And one way we get after the message of diversity and inclusion is through teaching and training. That is the Army's way. Of course, when service members, when civilians first join the Army, we tell them and we teach them that we train in peacetime for war. And this training in peacetime for war is something that is continuous and is constant. But we also train and teach on ethical behavior and different things like that, so that we can help them avoid inspections and different things like that. So thank you for bringing up that piece about how important it is for our Army to do the training and the teaching piece of it. What are some of your own challenges, sir? What are some techniques? What are some of the strategies that you have implemented in your career when some of those same challenges have come upon you?
Yeah, I think this is where I want to use the first picture, because I think sometimes we have to learn from a historical perspective, because sometimes we think that it's just about us. But there are so many people who have come before us, just like there will be so many people that come after us that have that we stand on the shoulders of, but also that we can learn from. So whenever you're ready to put it up, I'm ready to talk
Okay,
about
sir,
it.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you on a solo. I'm going to let you just talk a little bit about that, and I'm going to prep it on my next slide, and
Okay.
we'll be able to put it right up. Ready, sir?
Yes.
There you are, sir.
All right. So the key thing I think is we have to learn from our backgrounds and the things that made us into the people that we are today. You can see over my shoulder, this is a picture of my father. He passed when I was 5 years old. But he came from a powerful family out of Mount Bayou, Mississippi. And if you get a chance to Google Mount Bayou, Mississippi, it's a little town in the Mississippi Delta where his mom and dad did not have a lot of things. They had 6 sons and 4 daughters, and they worked there in the fields and did the things they needed to do. But out of that came educators, came military men, and others who continued to serve in multiple levels. My first haircut, and you can see, I don't know if I can see on the screen there, that's him, a picture of him during the Korean War in the middle.
Wow.
To the right of that is my grandmother and grandfather, Moses and Rosetta Smith, out of Mount Bayou, Mississippi. To the left of that picture in the middle, if you could highlight that, that's him in uniform on your screen there.
Which one, sir? I'm
The one in the
actually going to
middle where they,
decrease it a little bit
yeah, that one there. Yep, that
so
one
we can
there.
get all the photos in, because this is
Yeah.
really, really good. People, please forgive my screen here, but we want to give the general an opportunity to see all of these photos.
There we go.
Okay, that's everyone.
That's good. Excellent. So I think learning from the history of everyone, if you take the older picture in the middle,
Yes,
that's
sir.
good right there, Alicia.
Okay.
That's my dad and Korean War veteran. To the right of that picture is my grandmother and grandfather out of Mount Bayou, Mississippi. To the left of that picture is a picture of my uncle who served in World War II. To the lower left is my mom and dad at Russ College. To the right of that is my daughter, Tori, when I enlisted her into going to the Army to go to medical school where she is now. To the right of that is my brother-in-law who retired from the Marine Corps. To the right of that is the day I got promoted to 3 stars 3 years and 2 months ago now. And to the top left of that is my brother when he was at Fort Polk, Louisiana, on the far left corner there. The reason why I wanted to show you that picture was that I kind of put these pictures together for Black History Month this year. And it talked about, the theme was about the Black family and about service. I think sometimes we forget about what that service means. And you have your own series of what those pictures look like. And I think sometimes you just got to take the time to see where you were to know where you have to go.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing. Those are some very wonderful pictures, and that you've taken the opportunity to put that together. It appears to me that there is certainly a very, very rich history of service in your family. I want to thank you and thank your family for honoring our country through their service. Service is a gift. Service. I see someone in the comments. He says that he was born in Mound Bayou, Mississippi.
Really? Who's
Yes,
that?
sir. That's a gentleman whose name is Gary Jones, and that's where he says he was born at.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, we should connect. We probably know each other.
You probably should connect. Definitely should connect. Okay.
Yeah.
And
so she's saying family legacy is vital too. That's very good.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely is definitely vital. Absolutely. Sir, when we talk about this great collage of service to our nation, I'm thinking that service to our nation, and as you move up in the ranks, you move up in leadership. Leadership is something that's very, very important to you, sir. But then not only that, mentorship is equally as important to you. I'm so happy to be able to pivot in this portion of our conversation, because I do know that leadership and mentorship is something that's very near and dear to your heart. I'm going to say something that I picked up, that a quote from you. You once said, leadership in the proper places can assist in the molding process of young men and women, which is quite fitting, because the central component of leadership is the ability to influence others. Now, we both know, I'm a 23-year Army vet. And one of the things that I recall, it just never escapes me. It never leaves me. That leadership is providing purpose, motivation, and direction to someone that you're influencing. So when we think about influencer, talk to us. What does that mean to you from the perspective of molding young people?
Yes, I think everyone should understand that your presence, Presence, matters only when you're present, Present. So just like us having this conversation today,
Yes,
when
sir.
you're talking to people, your presence matters when you're present. And the young people that we're interacting with today, regardless of whether or not they have a phone or you don't think they're listening, they are listening to what you say, but they're more so focusing on what you do as you interact with them. Do you listen to the things that they're saying? Are you challenging them for different opportunities that are there? And I think a leader's influence is much broader than what they think.
Absolutely.
And frankly, we have to take advantage of it because we're in a fight for talent. And what's that fight? That fight is does a kid join a gang? Does a kid go down the wrong step, or does he do the things that we need them to do because we are influencing them the right way? And I am a perfect example of that. And it's so important that we all take the time to be present when we're engaging people, not just young people, but people in general, when you're having a conversation with them.
How do you use your backstory then, sir, in context of that statement you just made? How do you use your backstory to mentor young people?
Yeah, I think we got to be truthful to them.
Absolutely.
We got to be upfront. We got to be honest with them about those different things. I mean, I tell a story about graduating from college. You know how some people graduate cum laude, magna cum laude, and summa cum laude? You know what I graduated? Thank you, Lordy.
What did you graduate?
Thank you, Lordy. You know what that is, right? That's like I just barely got through there.
I can't believe that.
It's true. You can ask my wife. Maybe she'll put it in the text there. But it's true. And so we told our kids that I don't know how many years ago, and they just laughed about it. But you have to be upfront and honest with people about your story.
Absolutely.
Because it's not all peaches and cream. It's not all perfection.
Come on.
And they need to hear it from you, because what they see now is, okay, I'm a 3-star general. But this is
you're polished and everything now.
All polished and refined. But you gotta, in order to be polished, you gotta get hit by some bricks and rocks and everything else to polish that stone to get it to what it needs to be.
Oh, that's
and
so good, sir.
All the time. So I'm cognizant of that. But I think in order to be a role model, you have to model what you want people to do. So if you want respect, you got to show respect. Absolutely. If you want humility, you got to show humility.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's you have to have presence and you have to be present.
Be present. That's right.
I hear someone very near and dear to your heart say they're pleading the fifth. They won't say anything. You know,
I see that. Yeah. Yeah. She's going to be nice to me this time.
Yeah, she said she's pleading the fifth. In the concept of community. So we're talking about being present, showing up, being fully present. And when we engage with people in conversation and talking about the Army story, really, our Army is a community of people. It really is. It's a family. We look at it as a family. And even though we go from base to base and station to station, it's like we meet another part of our family when we get there and we develop a new community. The community in which we have in today's society, they embrace different things a little bit differently from the way they were embraced when you were younger, when you were a kid at an earlier age. So how does tragedy and the need for survival equate to success from your perspective?
Yeah, I think there's a way that you can look at a situation. You can look at it, a tragedy, to cause you to stop you what you're called to do, or cause to elevate you to what you're called to do. Remember, we talked about before, you don't necessarily know what you're called to do as a young person, but you're called to do something. Yes. And so as we fail in things, it helps you move forward. I read a book by Tavis Smiley. The name of it is Fail Up. So every time he failed, it showed him something that he knew he wouldn't need to do before. But I think another thing, Jesse Jackson said that your attitude has a lot to do with your altitude. Yes. So regardless of whatever that tragedy is or that negative situation that happens in your life, what are you going to use it to do? Is it going to be your stepping stone, or is it going to be your burial stone?
Wow.
I choose to make it my stepping stone.
Wow, that's so good, sir. Now, in the concept of community, you have two daughters, two lovely, very beautiful daughters. Now, I'm not sure if they take after you or they take after your wife, but
they take after my wife, hands down.
Absolutely.
Yes.
What have you been able to teach them about maneuvering in a male dominant society?
Yeah, I think I hear my wife laughing in the background. I don't know how much I've done about it, but if you could go ahead and put that picture up, I'll talk about that. I think we have to talk to our our children, but especially our daughters, about being confident, uh, but respectful in the things that they do. And each one knows who they are. They are different, and you know them both. They're different in the way that they approach things, but especially in the modern area, sometimes I think women can be lambasted because they're too confident, which I think is a big problem. I think we should celebrate the strengths that our women bring to our nation. I think about former First Lady Michelle Obama, and then the first female Vice President Kamala Harris. They're shining examples of what we should talk about. And I mentioned my aide already before. I think it's important that we take those things, because we know when women in the family are uplifted, that means the family's uplifted.
Yes.
And we know this in other countries, that if you take the time to uplift and educate the women in the family, it means that everybody gets educated in the community. And I think it's important too that we also, as I mentioned before, that we're not afraid to allow our children to fail. Because I think sometimes we don't push them in hard decisions and locations because we don't want them to make the same mistakes that we made, which is okay, fine, but that's the only way you can get to where you're called to do and what you're called to be, is by making mistakes or taking a step back in order to take a step forward. I would also tell our listeners to tell your daughters about your failures, as I mentioned before, even those tough things that you feel uncomfortable talking about, because it shows your humanity and your frailty.
Absolutely, sir. That was a very heartfelt message, and I really appreciate you for sharing your heart in that manner, because raising our children is a very important manner, and we have to matter, and we do have to understand that there will be some hiccups along the way, some bumps, some bruises, and different things like that. But we have to help them get back up again, help them to know that they can rise again. So thank you so much for that, sir. All right, we're moving quite forward. Now, your mother, I read something about your sweet mother. And if you can envision her, we just talked about your daughters, but if you can envision your mother as a young woman, and also as a leader, sir, she had to face many diverse disparities and the mindset and the ideologies from that time when you were a youth. How has that shaped the way that you respect and care for not only your daughters, but other women too?
Yes. So if you could put that picture back up again, I want to highlight that picture at Russ College. I think without a fail, my mom, that's the picture number one.
Okay.
Lily Mae Smith, she had to lead her family both at home in Columbus, Mississippi, and then to Atlanta, Georgia, after her husband died while she was pregnant with my younger brother, Lawrence. And then she had to make a decision on where she was going to send her kids to school. So now a single parent in Atlanta with a decision to do that. And so how do we make sure that we set the conditions for success? So that key decision, even though she says now that decision was not something that she thought about doing, it was a strategic decision, that we would say in the military, for what one wanted to do. Yes, so that's that lower left picture is a picture of my mom and dad at Russ College, and they met there after he left from the Korean War, and that's another plug for the military. So he paid for his school with the GI Bill, and Ms. Felicia, I know you know about that.
Oh, absolutely.
Me too. My kids know about it too. So we use it. But that key decision, along with keeping us in church every Sunday and sending us to Mississippi for the summer to stay connected with our cousins and with our uncles, made sure that we knew who we were. I think that village sometimes has been lost, which I think we have to garner back from many parts or segments of our families. And those cousins and uncles and aunts who were there, and we had people we call our cousins that really weren't our cousins. We had people that we call our aunts that really weren't our aunts, and uncles that weren't our uncles, but they took care of us like that. And it's the great power which gives us the great responsibility. And I think I'm going to talk about that at the end if you remind me about great power and great responsibility.
I'm writing it down, sir.
She talks about that. Now we're surprised of what she did and the impact of what she made, because she was doing just like every other mother does, or every other woman does, even today, to take care of their family and to look for the best part of their family and community. So we, as a community, have to come alongside and help, just like someone helped us, without having to be told to do it. So my first job was someone at the church that says, "Hey, I want you to come work for me," or "Hey, I want you to come rake some leaves." And it didn't seem like a big deal, but it was a big deal at the time because it showed responsibility, it showed leadership, it showed organization, it showed all those things that we expect and need to people today in corporate America.
Absolutely. That's that community and also the village. That's a great big piece of the village.
Right.
That's correct. When we talk about leadership, sir, and the acronym for leadership.
Yes, you can go take that one down.
Okay, sir. I'm going to go there right now.
Okay.
We talk about leadership and the acronym for leadership, LDRSHIP.
Yes.
Okay, loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, and personal courage. Wow, I remember those. That's how the military, the army ingrained that into the minds and the hearts of their leaders. So I can distinctly recall that. But within that acronym, it is comprised of influence. How do you accomplish this every day, sir?
Walk the walk and talk the talk.
Ooh-wee.
So again, it is, I had a leader tell me, if you pay attention to people that are around you. When I took command of the 20th Suburban, that's the Army's explosive ordnance disposal and weapons of mass destruction soldiers. It's 17 states, 19 installations, 3 to 5 countries at the time. Mm-hmm. I'm just so fired up about going to take this organization. And a 4-star general comes in. I'm like, well, he flies in on his plane. We pick him up. We drive him in. And, we're drinking coffee. And I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to go. And so we start walking out. And I was like, sir, this is where we got to go. We're going to do the assumption of command. And he stops. His name is J.D. Thurman, General J.D. Thurman. I'll never forget it. He stops at every soldier, shakes their hand and asks them, hey, I'm J.D. Thurman. Tell me where you're from. And I looked at him. He looked at me. And I just stood there until he shook every soldier's hand. And I got it. So his influence at that moment grew exponentially, not only to me, but to everybody that was there, because he told everybody, the change of command is not important.
Wow.
The people are the most important thing. So your influence extends beyond many other areas that you think of and the things that you do.
Absolutely. Your purpose, sir. What's your why?
My why?
Yes, sir.
To do this. To be called to help somebody else achieve their goals, because I was assisted to achieve the goals that I was called to do before I was called to do that. And so when you look back over and you say, okay, why did I go do the Biological Weapons Convention Protocol at the time when I didn't want to go? Which is a whole nother story. It's because they were preparing me for being the commanding general of the 20th Suburban. Well, we had to deal with weapons of mass destruction, but I didn't know that as a young major 7 or 8 years prior to that time frame.
Right. So That's that concept of the whole puzzle. You don't see the whole
That's
puzzle
correct.
all at once. It's
That's
piece
correct.
by piece and bit by bit, and
Right.
everything connects at one different point or another.
That's right. And
That's
your
good.
puzzle is different than mine, but we all
Absolutely.
have this different puzzles that we're working on together too, because
Absolutely.
that puzzle of the community is what we all work on together.
That's so good, sir. Direction. Okay.
I
Influence, purpose,
yes,
direction. This is all the leadership way of our
yeah.
Army. It must be clear and concise. What is some of your methodology, sir?
I think you got to take the time to mentor people. I was talking with my new aide de camp and my new assistant XO. I always make everyone give me a 5-year plan,
Oh,
even
wow.
the generals that I talk to. And the purpose behind it is your plan can change, and it will change. But if you don't have a plan, any road will get you there. And so I have a 5-year plan, even though I'm going to retire sometime this year to do something else. Will that plan change? Yes. But I have a plan for what I think I want to do.
Absolutely. And so I guess motivation towards that plan is a big piece.
That's correct.
How do you
I,
measure success as it relates to these four categories?
I think it
Influence,
comes,
purpose, direction, motivation.
I think it's how I help other people achieve their goals. So me having a conversation with you today is going to be a blessing to me because I'm spending time talking to your folks.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, sir, because we oftentimes don't really know who is in our audiences, and then this very same video, there may be someone sitting in their living room somewhere, and they may have young sons or daughters that
Yes.
are about at that decision making process of whether or not they're going to join our Army. So I want to
Mhm.
thank you again for your time. I want to move forward just a tad bit and talk about this quote, another quote that I captured from you, sir.
Okay.
People have to be invested into for the next generation. The military teaches us the importance of shaping our environment. Can you speak to what that means to you today, like right in this moment?
Sure. So that's part of what the Spider-Man rule, I call it, great power and great responsibility. So everybody knows the story of Spider-Man, and the reason he became Spider-Man was because of a spider bite. Well, he got the powers because of that. The reason why he became Spider-Man because he did not do something they were supposed to do. His Uncle Ben told him, great power, great responsibility. So as a leader, I have the power, but I also have the responsibility to make a difference in the people that I touch every day. So if I don't leave the people that I engage with every day feeling better about what they were doing that day, that is a problem. So Spider-Man failed to do the things he was supposed to do. That meant his uncle got killed, right? That's when he decided to be Spider-Man. So I want to be in a place where not only do I have the power, but I also have the responsibility to make a difference in the lives of the people that I interact with every day. And sometimes that drives people crazy because in walking in the hall of the Pentagon, I speak to people. And I'm like, wow.
Absolutely. I can see
And I'm
that.
6'2", 240 pounds, and I'm bald headed. So I'm scary. And I'm a 3-star general. So when I'm like, oh, and now we got masks on, so we look like Darth Vader's. Look, I'm your
Yeah.
father. So it is it's important that we take the time to make a difference in the lives of the folks that are there. And I think the military has taught me that, but your background teaches you that, and then the military just enhances that. And I think corporate
Yes, sir.
America is going to want that.
Absolutely, sir. They are definitely going to want it. Absolutely. We're looking at right now in this interview Lieutenant General Leslie C. Smith, known very affectionately by the name of, you're usually known as General Les Smith. But before General Smith became a general, there was a young lieutenant somewhere. So I'd like to ask you, sir, what would you say to that young lieutenant from Atlanta, Georgia today? If you had that young lieutenant's undivided attention, what would you say to him?
Yeah, I would tell them to, and I tell all folks this, to listen to your non-commissioned officers. And what do I mean by that? The people on the call tonight, those are the people who care about you. And once you start listening to them, that changes your outlook on life. And then secondly, treat everyone with dignity and respect. So what does that mean? What does that look like? So today, every day, someone comes in and empties our trash in the Pentagon. And 2 or 3 days out of the week, people come in vacuum the floors. So I just happen to be walking in talking to my folks, and I asked, Miss Carol, she's been emptying our trash for a while. And the first time we found out what her name was, people were like, wow, this is pretty cool. Because Miss Carol has goals and objectives.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I would tell myself is to have fun along the way. Now, this is sometimes a hard role you can hold, and if you're not having fun doing what you do, why do it? The other thing I would tell myself was save more money, and take your family on more trips. And then
Oh,
last
wow.
I would say, don't sweat the small stuff.
Don't sweat the small stuff.
Don't sweat the small stuff.
Now, you said that we have time, and I think we have approximately maybe about 6 minutes or so.
Sure.
That if I reminded you, you would talk about great power and great responsibility.
Yeah, I kind of did already with the Spider-Man rule. But what I want to do is I want you to take that last picture and put it up. I want to talk to the little version of me, because we have many little ones where we need to take the option of who we were. And then for Gary, this is a picture in Mount Bayou, Mississippi.
And that would be number 3.
Number 3.
Here we go. And I'm going to go over here. There you are, sir.
There we go. And so that's a picture of my sister and my 2 cousins. And I think we all got cowboy boots for Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
And you can see me clowning there. And we were talking about this the other day, that I think one of our aunts made us sit down and take this picture. Because, when you're a kid, you're always outside playing. But I would tell you the key thing is, if you think about what you got to do, we don't know, they didn't know that little kid was going to become a 3-star general. But what they did know was that they were going to invest everything that they could in that kid, just like they did in my cousins and my sister. That's my sister Cassandra on the right, and my cousins in the middle, and all of us to be where we need to be. And that's my challenge to your audience. There are kids today who need to be first sat down like that and say, hey, sit down and smile so we can take the picture, because we're all clowning. But second, to take the time to invest in them, because you don't know what the return on that investment is. And that investment will bless people for generations to come, because of the investment that was made in us, that we can bless other people today.
Absolutely. Any parting thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I will tell you, my favorite scripture is Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. It talks about trusting in the Lord with all your heart and leaning not to your own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. I think we should think about military service as a first choice and not a last choice. And for those who interact with veterans, think about them as someone that you're going to employ. They'll be on time. They know how to follow orders. They know how to have good attitudes. They're good leaders. And they, just like you see our host, Felicia Austin, she had me on here an hour ahead of time. Hey, sir, you need to get your stuff together and make it right. This has nothing to do with how much money you make, but what you're called to do. So I'm honored to participate with you tonight, Felicia.
Sir, thank you so much. I'm so honored by your presence with us tonight. Really, I'm really honored that you would take the time to come and talk with me and talk with our audience. Thank you so much for sharing the scripture tonight. I know that you're a man of faith. I do know that. However, we know that we have people from all backgrounds, religious perspectives, and different things like that. And we embrace in our Army each and every one of them. We do. The Army is a place that a lot of us call home. and it's probably the only home that a lot of people have ever had. I'd like to thank you for your time tonight. And if you would be so honored, if you want to, you can always come back. You can always come back again and bring one of your daughters with you.
Oh, sure. And I think one of them may watch tonight and they'll watch the video later. I'll be honored to do that. I think that the key thing is that a collaborative discussion about these topics and others are how we help move ourselves forward. So you can count me in on your team.
Thank you, sir. Have a wonderful night. Thank you also very much for joining me tonight with my guest, Lieutenant General Leslie Smith, the 66th Inspector General of the United States Army. Thank you again for joining us. We appreciate your time and allowing us to come into your space. I won't be on the show next week. I have a very big day coming up this Friday, so I'm going to celebrate it all weekend. But at any rate, I'll see you the week after that. I think it's the 19th. Thank you so much again. And just know that the Army is not a last choice. It's a choice that you make if you desire to serve. Thank you.